Well, good morning. Happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday, Wednesday of July, and it's a beautiful day outside, 74 degrees. Thank you so much for joining me. I enjoy our time together every morning. And boy, what a beautiful morning. Last night, it was beautiful outside. Wasn't too hot. Well, I mean, it was a little bit warmer than I think the night before, but it was nice sitting outside watching the dark skies roll in. The 21st is Sunday, and that's the full moon. So if you're looking forward to the full moon, it's in about 4 days from today, which is exciting. I love the full moon. I love sitting outside watching that first moonrise right at sunset of the moon cycle. And then what's really nice is that when you walk in the morning, that moon just illuminates everything. So about 2 days before full moon, so starting in about 2 days, it'll be bright outside. It'll be like day. It'll be wonderful. So it's semi-official, I guess, semi-official. Jennifer's parents are coming here. I think the plan is that in about 14 days or about 2 weeks from today, they'll arrive. Is that about right? 70, 24th, 30, 14, 31st. Yeah, maybe by 2 weeks from today, they'll be here. I mean, we're not sure exactly of the day, but like 2 weeks from Monday or 2 weeks from yesterday is probably the best day for them to arrive. And we're working on the housing here. They want, their independence. So we've got a kind of location spotted out for them, and that'll be interesting. They're in their mid 80s. They've got what every person in their mid 80s has. Lots of doctor's appointments and lots of things like that. So we know that it'll be interesting to see how all this comes together, and when you are a teacher. I will go back when you are a church musician, you realize that it's just a lifestyle choice. There are things that you give up to provide opportunity to practice and be a church musician. And then when you're a teacher, it's a 24-hour job. I mean, it doesn't seem like it would be, but it really is. And so it's a lifestyle choice. Being a pastor is a lifestyle choice. And I think taking care of aging parents that live, next door is a lifestyle choice. And so this will be a new lifestyle for us. And in a way, I'm kind of excited about it because I like them both very, very much. And we haven't been able to live in the same community. They lived in Phoenix when we were here, but only for 6 months. And then they moved to Houston. And then to go visit them, we'd always have to take the kids and go visit them. So it'll be interesting to see what the dynamic will be, if they still like me. At this point, they like me. I'm the pastor of course, all their sons are pastors. You should know that. All the sons and the sons-in-law, they're all pastors. But it'll be interesting to see because 20 years ago, they liked me a lot. So I have no idea if they'll still like me because, it changes the dynamic. We'll have to see. Of course, Jennifer they love, right? Jennifer's the firstborn, perfect child. So, but it'd be interesting to see if they still like her. When all of our kids left home, Jennifer and I are like, it's a good thing we still like each other because we're going to spend a lot of time together. Oh my goodness. So anyway, what else? So birthdays, we have no birthday today, if I remember correctly. Today is the 17th. Yeah, the next birthdays, there's 2 on Saturday, and then that'll be it. All right, why don't we get into our study? We are in 1 Kings chapter 10. The Queen of Sheba has just left, and she is headed back to Sheba. And now the author of Kings is talking about the wealth of Solomon. And he is describing the wealth, and it is a lot of wealth. It's so well. The Queen of Sheba said, that it was absolutely overwhelming, the amount of wealth and pomp that Solomon had. And now there's just a little bit more description of the wealth. And so let's get into that. We left off at verse 17. So let's read on 1 Kings chapter 10, beginning at verse 18. Then the king made a great throne covered with ivory and overlaid with fine gold. The throne had 6 steps, and its back had a rounded top. On both sides of the seat were armrests, with a lion standing beside each of them. 12 lions stood on the 6 steps, one at either end of each step. Nothing like it had ever been made for any other kingdom. All King Solomon's goblets were gold, and all the household articles in the palace of the forest of Lebanon were pure gold. Nothing was made of silver, because silver was considered of little value in Solomon's day. The king had a fleet of trading ships at sea, along with the ships of Hiram. Once every 3 years, it returned carrying gold, silver, ivory, and apes and baboons. So let's just pause here for a second. He made a great throne carved with ivory. And what is ivory, right? It's elephant tusks or other large animals that have tusks that they carve. Today, ivory is a forbidden material to use because it is so rare that you have to kill. It's so rare that it's valuable. It's almost like gold. That's how rare it is. And so if you want to become wealthy, if you are poor and you live in Africa and you want to elevate yourself from being dirt poor to being tremendously wealthy, all you have to do is kill an elephant, cut out its tusks, and sell the tusks on the black market, and all of a sudden you're a millionaire. So there is a huge a market for ivory. And I've been to the Whaling Museum in Nantucket. Was it Nantucket? I don't remember where the Whaling Museum, somewhere in Connecticut, is a whaling museum. And they have carvings in ivory. It's called scrimshaw. And as you can imagine, sailors would be out to sea for 3 years, almost like here in Solomon. They'd be on a whaling expedition for 3 years, and there's a lot of downtime while you're looking for that whale. And so they would take ivory and they would carve it into scrimshaw, and some of it is the most beautiful artwork you can possibly ever imagine. It wasn't Nantucket. Where is Mystic, Connecticut, I think is where the Whaling Museum was. Anyway, there's probably several of them, but the one that we went to was somewhere in Connecticut. And I wanted to spend a year in that Whaling Museum looking at all the stuff. The other thing that was in the Whaling Museum was rudimentary tools to do amputations. Because if you remember, right at the time leading up to the Civil War, if you got an infection, you died. But somewhere along the line, they realized that if they cut off your leg, you wouldn't die, but you'd live without a leg. And so that period of the 1800s, they would cut off people's legs and arms, and they had a whole set of doctors of tools on how they would do that and descriptions of how they do that. And I know it sounds gruesome and horrid, but there were a lot of lives that were saved in the 1800s because of amputations, because it was, if you could get rid of that infection and cut it off, then, the person lived, albeit without a leg, but they lived. And then they developed a means to put you under, to give you some sort of anesthesia. And that even made the amputation a little bit better. But I mean, if you're faced with, okay, you're either going to die or we can cut off your leg, but no anesthesia. Which one do you want? I'm sure a lot of people said, just let me die. Oh, that was a terrible, painful death, extremely painful death of dying of infection. So I think a lot of people said, yeah, just cut off the leg, give me a lot to drink, so I'm almost not without any pain, and cut off the leg. And a lot of people died during that surgery too. So that's the ivory and fine gold. And then the throne had 6. This throne is amazing. The throne had 6 steps, and the back had a rounded top. On both sides of the seat were armrests, a lion standing besides each of them. Nothing like it had ever been made for any other kingdom. And artists have come up with what that looks like. There was an 1800s artist who did his depiction of it. Here's what it looks like. So you have the throne and you have the lions coming down steps. There's King Solomon, all of his royal court. This one is, I don't know who painted this, Pointer or something like that. This is his depiction. Here's another one looking front on. So you have the rounded throne at the top with the lions coming down. I mean, it is impressive, the whole idea of a throne room and having a throne and just this grandiose throne. What Solomon learned, I believe, is that power attracts people. I call it the gravitational effect, but the more grandiose something is, the more large and ostentatious and exudes power, the more people are attracted to it. And so a king like Solomon would build a palace, build the temple, build a community, because the more people you have in your community and the more the wealth that is displayed in the community, the more it attracts people to your community and your community will grow. And the England for a long time would have cathedrals, and the cathedral was a seat of power, right? There was the bishop would sit in the cathedral. The only way you'd have a cathedral is if you had a bishop, and the bishop would sit in the cathedral. He is like the power of that whole region. And people would come just to see the cathedral and see the bishop and adjudicate things. If it wasn't adjudicated in the legal system, sometimes it could be adjudicated in the bishop system, in the religious system. And whenever you have a lot of people, it attracts more people. When I was growing up in Phoenix, I was born in the 60s, early 60s in Phoenix, and the population, well, actually, I pulled it up because I was curious about it. The population of Phoenix in 1960 was 500, this is the metropolitan region, so this is all of Phoenix plus the outlying area, 558,000 people. So about half the size of metropolitan Tucson now. That's what I grew up in Phoenix. Today, the population of Phoenix is 4.77 million people. So it's almost 10 times as many people. How did they get there? And why did they get there? And part of it is that Phoenix started to grow. They started to plan for the growth. They started building freeway systems, and then people want to live in the Southwest. What made Phoenix livable in the last century was the invention of the air conditioner. Once the air conditioner had been invented, people wanted to get out of the cold. People wanted to get out of the humid, and they wanted to come to Arizona. There were a lot of people that moved here for allergies. A lot of people moved here for respiratory diseases. A lot of times people had other diseases, and they said that good sunshine would heal you of these diseases. So millions of people have moved to Phoenix over the last 40 years, 45 years, yeah. And the 60 years. But the freeway says, so we voted on the freeways in 84, 85. So in 40 years, what was it in 85? Let's see. In 85, 1.696 million people. And Tucson's about 1 million. So Tucson still has to grow by 50% before we are at the size that Phoenix was when they voted on the sales tax to build all the freeway systems. Because what you find out, leaders will find out, is the people are coming. Can't stop them. If they want to live in Phoenix, they're going to move here. Or if they want to live in Tucson, they're going to move here. You can't stop them. You can't close the border and say, do not move to Tucson. So the question is, do we have traffic and congestion and horrible lifestyle because of all these people moving here? Or do we plan for the growth and have a wonderful lifestyle as people move here? And that Phoenix decided in 85, it was a regional vote to vote for a sales tax that built all the freeway systems. And the people came. And they were going to come either way. But 4.7 million people. I mean, it's like 4 million people over the last 60 years. That's a lot of growth. And Tucson will experience this growth. I guarantee you, Tucson will experience this growth. You can't stop it. Tucson is a beautiful place to live. It's more beautiful than Phoenix, if you ask me. And it just hasn't been on the radar of a lot of people, but it's getting there. And once they realize, I mean, we're just growing exponentially anyway. All right, so King Solomon appears to be a wise ruler, and he appears to do the right things. He sends out ships. He has a fleet of trading ships, and they go along with the ships from Hiram, which is King Hiram up in Tyre and Sidon, up in that area where the cedars of Lebanon are. Those trading ships, along with Hiram's trading ships, they just scour the world and they pick up things from trade. And every 3 years, they come back and they deposit the spoils of their trade to King Solomon. So he's a businessman. He's not just taking his wealth and storing it. He's taking his wealth, putting it on ships, and going out and trading with other people, and then bringing it back and getting gold, silver, ivory, and listen to this, apes and baboons, which means that King Solomon is a zookeeper, right? He's bringing exotic animals back to Israel so that people can see what apes and baboons look like. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. He just appears to be a guy that really understands the idea of trade. When I went to school, I took a couple transportation classes, transportation engineering. You wouldn't think that there's such a field as transportation engineering, but there is. Because what statistically has been shown time and time again is that if you build a trade route and you improve that road, people will trade along that road. And so you have the great road of Rome, that went around. And once Rome built all these trading routes, Rome became the wealthiest empire ever, right? Phoenix, as it built freeways, became a wealthy empire because when you build roads, you get trade. Well, when you build ships and you send your ships out, you also get trade. And trade always increases wealth because there's always something that you have more of that you want to get rid of and trade with other people. And there's always things that you want from other people and you want that trade to come to you. And the only way that happens is to have a fleet of ships to go and do trade. And so Solomon is wise enough to see this, and he sends out his ships and he does trade. And in the end, because of Solomon's keenness in doing that, he becomes one of the wealthiest guy, right? Some people say the wealthiest guy that's ever lived. Just absolutely phenomenal. Really, really sharp guy. And he sends his trading ships out to do that. And it's interesting that it comes every 3 years, which is about the average length of a whaling trip. So these boats would go out, they would catch whales, they would tie them off next to the ship, and then they would cut off strips of fat, boil down the fat to the whale fat, basically. And then they would put it in kegs, large kegs. And then when all the kegs were filled in the hull of the ship, then the whaling ship would go back and they'd offload the kegs. They would do a trade. They'd pay all the sailors, and the sailors could either, stay in port for a month or two until they're ready to go out to ship to sea again, but then they would go out for 3 years. If you've ever read Moby Dick, right, you can get a vivid impression of what that looks like. Phenomenal time, 1800s. I mean, other than the fact that I might have to have my leg amputated, I really feel like I could have enjoyed the 1800s. I don't know, there's lots of diseases too. So there's that. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's see. I just read that they found underneath some castle somewhere, some building, a whole bunch of skeletons. That was another problem with the 1800s, was it wasn't the scientific method that we have today. So if you wanted to be a serial killer, you could get away with it. That's not good. Unless you're a serial killer, because you can't get away with it today, but you could. All right, verse 23. King Solomon was greater in riches and wisdom than all the other kings of the earth. The whole world sought audience with Solomon to hear the wisdom God had put in his heart. Year after year, everyone who came brought a gift, articles of silver and gold, robes, weapons, spices, horses, and mules. So he's wealthy as it is. He inherited from his father David, plus he gets this tribute in all of Israel. It all comes to him, and he stores that wealth. After he's built his palace, he doesn't really need all that wealth. Then he funnels that wealth into ships, to business ventures, which make Israel and Solomon even more wealthy. And then because he's so successful, people come to Solomon and give him gifts just to be in his presence. And so he gets even more wealthy. And so he is just gathering wealth and wealth. And I'm sure I've said this before, but wealth attracts wealth. And if you've got a lot of wealth, people just want to be in your presence and they want to give you gifts. And your wealth starts to increase exponentially to the point where you can't get rid of it, which is another problem. I mean, if you're a community, if you're a king, I guess you could pour that wealth into your community and build beautiful buildings and temples and things like that. But if you're a private person, what are you going to do with all that wealth? I mean, there's so much wealth that you can spend at a time, and then what do you do? All right, let's see. Let's finish. 26. Solomon accumulated chariots and horses. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horses, which he kept in the chariot cities and also with him in Jerusalem. The king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones and cedar, as plentiful as sycamore fig trees in the foothills. So gold, obviously he uses as a construction material, but silver, he doesn't even make silver coins. There's so much silver that it's just a common, everybody's got silver. You got silver? Yeah, I got a pound of silver over here, You need it? I'll trade you for it. 28, Solomon's horses were imported from Egypt and from Kue. The royal merchants, let's see what Kue is. It's probably Cilicia. Okay, so across the Mediterranean. The royal merchants purchased them from Kue at the current price. They imported a chariot from Egypt for 600 shekels of silver and a horse for 150. They also exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and to the Arameans. So it sounds like not only that, so not only does he do trading, but he's like the what is it called? The East India Trading Company, which was a private company, but they created all these ships. And basically they went to trading routes. So they would take goods and services from England. They would go over to India. They would trade over there for spices and cloth and things that came from India, tea. It would come back, and then they would sell it to all of, not just for their own country, but to all of Europe. The East Indian Trading Company, which some have said has been the most wealthy company that ever existed. And it all became because of trade. You can become a zillionaire from trade because you control things that people want and that people that want to get rid of. And so I have found, I know a couple people that are in the business of trading produce. And I will tell you that produce, everybody needs produce. So in the business of trade, there is wealth there. There's a wealth attached to it. All right, so I think we'll end it there. That's the end of chapter 10. We'll go to chapter 11 next time, which will be tomorrow. Let's close in prayer. Gracious God, thanks for this day. Thanks for the example of Solomon. Until we meet again, keep us in your grace. Amen. All right, so today's Wednesday. We'll meet tomorrow, and we'll start into chapter 11. I'm praying that you have a great day today. I hope we get a rainstorm today. I don't know if we're going to get one, but this is the time when they roll in, and sometimes you get one, sometimes you don't. My favorite time of year. Pray for Jennifer and I as we consider our new life challenges and what that's going to look like and how we navigate that. Have a great day, and we will, let me get my cursor. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.